Hey y'all.
There we are. Hey y'all. Welcome to the Sheshed
Lord have
Live.
mercy.
We are back once again with another amazing dialogue again amongst the women of God. Amen. This
A
is Sheshed
sanctified
Live.
assembly.
Sanctified and
Mhm.
feel that Holy Ghost. Lift up your hands. We are back with an amazing discussion. It may hurt your toes, your feelings may be hurt,
Mhm.
but I really hope you feel empowered once we are done, because the reality is we all desire love, right? We desire to get get to that, person that we'll be with for the rest of our lives. And the reality is, it doesn't always happen overnight. And there are a lot of false starts.
Mhm.
You meet someone, you get excited, and then it goes nowhere. So that can be discouraging. So we're here to talk about
Womp
it
womp.
and make sure that y'all interact with us, because y'all be lit on the man cave. Don't y'all give us no little dry, crunchy comments. Y'all need to be in here
Keep that
interacting.
same energy.
Keep that same energy.
All of the
So
energy.
before we jump in, I'm Becca. Y'all know me. Y'all see me in the comments. Sometimes I be causing trouble. Sometimes I just be, preaching a little bit. As y'all see at Preach Becca. Mother is here.
Hey y'all. I'm really a participant tonight. You know what I'm saying? I'm here
Mhm.
to just kidding. I'm gonna be running my mouth and doing what I do. But I'm excited to be here. So I love the She Shed when we get to come together in this way. And we have a special announcement at the end of this. So well, it's like how y'all can get to the special announcement really. So I would stick around till the end. And make sure y'all enjoy tonight.
Bum, 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 bum,
Go
bum,
girls.
bum, bum.
Girl power.
Go, girls, go, girls. So I do not want to mispronounce her name. So, sis, I'm gonna have you go ahead and introduce yourself. Let the people know who you are.
Absolutely. Good evening. My name is Bridgette Finister, and I'm excited to be here with you guys tonight with these beautiful ladies. So I'm excited to get the conversation started.
Awesome. So, let me get my little note here, because I feel like the Lord was speaking to me about us today, and I just want to really make sure that we're capturing everything that He wants to talk about. So we
I'm
titled
ready.
tonight, I thought that was Bae. I thought that it was Bae. Did y'all see that
Should have
little
thought again.
TikTok that I posted? And it was like,
Hmm.
it's like you meet somebody and nothing. You go on a date and nothing. You get almost in a relationship and nothing. And it's like, it just seems like everything kind of falls apart. And so our goal tonight is to really kind of dissect that, give you guys some tools on how to maneuver through dating seasons, because we all know dating can be very ghetto. All right.
The
But
ghetto.
there you kind of got to go through that part to get to the marriage part. Okay. And so we can't just skip seasons. We have to, go through certain things. And so, ladies, I want to kind of pose this question to you guys, because I hear often from men that women are thirsty and that we are
Who?
very eager. Not you,
Oh, it
not
couldn't be.
me, not
Definitely
me,
not Bridget. Definitely not Bridget.
Never,
definitely
never thirsty.
not nobody on this panel.
No, no, no,
Listen,
no.
Look,
We are
I'm drinking the
we are
living
quenched
water.
over here. We are.
We drink the living water over here, okay? We ain't thirsty. But so I wanted to kind of pose the question to you guys, and I want to put a twist on it as well. So when you hear men say she's being thirsty, what kind of comes to your mind? And the second part is, do you think that being thirsty is normal, Or do you think that being thirsty is abnormal? I'm going to start with Bridget.
I feel like, okay, so if a man is saying a woman is thirsty, then I feel like they're saying that she's pursuing a man as opposed to sitting back and letting a man pursue her, which I feel like is kind of basic, but I just feel like this day and age is taken out of context because obviously, we're people of faith, women of faith. We believe that, a man should pursue us. However, like faith without works is dead. You can't, like, we're not going to just stand here and just not say anything. I see the guys talk a lot of times in the chat and they say, oh, we don't give them like real hints. They're not actually telling us how they feel and saying all these things, whatever. So I feel like there's like a level of, you can get to know somebody, you can show interest, and you can put yourself out there without having to be seen as thirsty. I don't like that because we could just be getting to know people. I feel like if we take the stigma off of just genuinely wanting to get to know people to see if we even like you. I know this is a serious issue that I have had in my past where I'm like, oh, I see a guy, oh, I just like you. Well, I don't know your values. I don't know where you come from. I don't know what you like. I don't know if we're going to match. I don't know any of these things. So maybe I need to talk to you to find out if we match. And so I personally don't think it's being thirsty, but I think a lot of men see it as. And just for an example, last week I was randomly in a clubhouse room and it was like a lot of men having a discussion. And I came on and made a comment and the men actually called me out and were like, oh, how are you going to come up here and not think you're going to get hollered at? And a couple of men did come in my DMs and I genuinely just had a conversation with these people. And one of the guys came back and said, oh, you're shopping. Oh, you basically that I was being thirsty. And I'm like, first off, I didn't go in anybody's DM. Secondly, where is the issue with having a conversation with a man? I don't know you. I don't know you. And so I just honestly think we just need to stop saying that. Like, I don't like it. That's my 2 cents.
Girl, you said something really good, and I'm going to kind of put it in the back of my mind for later because you're actually in my notes for tonight. But you said something about not even knowing them. So we're going to circle back around to that. Y'all, our resident sexologist is in the building.
First of all,
Brittany is here.
Hey, what other platform, especially Christian platform, do you know has a resident sexologist?
Listen,
I'm excited to be here with her tonight. I'm excited.
The breed and everything. She's doing the dang thing. Make sure y'all follow her. But go ahead and do the introduction. We allow her to be late because we're on borrowed time with her. At this point, she's a celebrity. And so
she's our celebrity
it is
friend.
Just a blessing when she is in our midst. Amen.
None of it is true. Oh wait, am I supposed to turn this around?
First of all, who made this comment?
Oh, I turned mine around.
Who made this comment? Let me go to Facebook.
I literally was thinking the same thing. Who said that?
Blocker. Don't come in here starting no trouble. We let y'all
listen.
Brittany, what do they call this week?
I told them they control a little bit. Just a little bit they control.
Mm-hmm.
But so Brittany B, we're talking about what does it mean for a woman to be thirsty?
Ooh.
And so what are your thoughts on that? And do you think it's normal or abnormal?
Do I think thirstiness is normal?
Mm-hmm.
Normal as in commonplace? Sure. Mm-hmm. Normal as in something that should happen. It really is countercultural to us particularly as believers, when you think about that which is already ours. Thirsty is when you longing for something that you don't have, or it's not in your midst or not in your grasp. And the way life has happened for women as far as dating and relationship, we're always in this perpetual space of like, gimme. So it's countercultural, but it's commonplace, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I also think, if I'm understanding what Bree said coming in, what I heard is that it is often misconstrued that a woman who is passionate or not, who doesn't have a problem with saying, hey, what's going on, I'm interested in you, blah blah blah, it comes across, it gets labeled as thirsty because women are expected to just sit back and wait our turn. And for some of us, that's not a part of our, well, I mean, I could definitely speak for myself. Like, sir, you cute, I'm cute. Scale of 1 to 10, what's the likelihood that this is going to happen? So, and like, let's not waste my time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I
That's
just need
it.
to know, like, what's up? And so, and or if I'm also like a very big cheerleader, like, guess who's home? You are. So like in out in the world, and when I say, you know, folks post stuff, and I'm like, yes, come on, Sue. And that doesn't mean that I want anything or pick, like, because along with that thirsty comes that term pick me and all of that. Because you know, far from that, but it really is just like some people have more personality that just like go and get it. You know, some people are just like,
Mhm.
you know, sit back and wait wait and see what happens, because we've also misconstrued that he who findeth a wife.
We can't hear
We
you.
can't hear
You're
you, B.
muted.
No.
Oh, we hear you. We hear
Oh,
you.
we hear you now. You're
Okay,
good.
okay,
Yes.
okay. I got to be off somewhere being found, and so I'm just going to sit back. So I really think, hope I answered the question, that I don't think that we should be doing this. Not some. It shouldn't be the way it's lived out. Shouldn't be our thing. That's countercultural to us as believers, but very typical for what such is the lot in life to be a single woman in today's dating era.
Got it. Mother, what you got?
I really like this comment. She said, if a man says that, if he says that he just doesn't want that woman, a woman pursuing or really returning a man's energy when he's interested isn't labeled as thirsty, which is ironic. Usually is the same. Usually is the same action. So what I gather from that is, I think that it comes down to if they like you,
Mm-hmm.
right? What's considered thirsty and what's not comes down to, is that person attracted to you?
Pretty
If
much.
they want
True.
you, they're
True.
attracted to you. It ain't really no mind, unless they are unless they come from a very traditional background in which that is an immediate turn off, right? Like that's a particular preference. And I'm not shading that, but for the most part, if you know what I'm saying, like if Idris was no longer in a marriage and his shot at me aggressively, I may not like that from somebody else, but I may be like, well, it's Idris.
It's
So,
Idris. Okay.
you
He
know
can
what
say
I'm
what
saying?
he wants.
Now, granted, everybody's not that to you, right? Like everybody's not at the level of like, oh, if they this fine, they get an automatic pass. Like for me, there are some things, I don't care how fine you are, it's an automatic no. Like if you step to me in a certain way, I don't care how fine you are. And so so I say that to say, I think that what men perceive as thirsty a lot of times has to do with whether or not they're attracted to you, and then like how far you go. I think
Mhm.
that being and really the word is desperate, right? So when you are desperate, it shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can I was at a business conference a few weeks ago, and they were talking about like client management, like client attraction. Can y'all still hear me? Okay. So they were saying, be hungry but don't be thirsty. So like
Bree, let me have
have
you
a,
mute your mic real quick, Bree.
I got it.
Okay.
Okay,
There you go, V.
so they were saying like when it comes to like getting clients, like be hungry but don't be thirsty. And what that meant was have a hunger, have a desire for what you want without going through desperate measures to get it. So
Yes.
for me, what it comes down to is the posture of your heart. If you are still, if you are a woman of wholeness, if you are a woman of stillness and peace, right? Then you're not desperate. This is my last thing. I spoke at a one of our sisters in here, Michelle Cameron. She booked me to speak to her singles group several months ago. And one thing that the Lord showed me was, and I'm gonna go through this because I really love this scripture and I feel like it's so appropriate. It's in Psalms 34:10. It says, young the lions may grow. This is I don't like NIV. Let me go to something I like a little bit more. New King James. The young lions lack and suffer hunger, but those who seek the Lord shall not lack any good thing. And so what we understand in the text here, especially when we look at lions, like they're very strong, right? They are the king of the jungle. They dominate. But what happens when something that has such power becomes hungry and feels like they're lacking, right? They become weak. They may do things to put themselves in harm's way. They may be the predominant predator. However, when they are weak, they are still in a place where they can become prey, and so they can't fight back. And so they might stay they're communal animals. And so they may move out of their herd, they may move out of their pride, right, in order to seek something, which puts them at a place of vulnerability, which could lead them to possibly being attacked. So when you are in a place of desperation, you go through desperate measures, you now become vulnerable and open for attack. And you put yourself in situations that you otherwise might not, especially if you have a community that is supporting you. So when you get into a place, though, where you trust the Lord for all of your desires and your needs, right? Because we had this conversation about, do we need a man or want a man? It's irrelevant to me, but some desires can be so strong it feels like a need. And so when we take that to the Lord, I'm sorry, I'm kind of in I'm on my pulpit right now, but when we take those things to the Lord, he'll deal with whether it's a need or a want and filter all those things out. But because he loves you and he's a good father, he is like serious about making sure that you come back to a place where you trust him, right? So for those who seek the Lord lack no good thing. So when you are settled in the fact that, like, in my power, in my position as a daughter of God, you no longer have to put yourself in desperate situations, and your encounters with people will prove that. Right. So the way that you approach things, I can be confident. You may think I'm thirsty, but that's also not going to deter me from being who I am. Because that's another thing. Some people will call you thirsty because they're not used to your approach. And that's not a you thing. That's a them thing. That's not the person you need to be with anyway. So backpedal, let me get back to my ratchet bag. But
no, but Bernice, like, that is really, like, everything that you said is like really good. And I think a lot of times we kind of like trivialize the conversation, like, because like thirsty and desperate and pick me and all those things have become like pop cultural things, but it really is biblical when you think about it. And that's what I meant when I said it's countercultural, is because he already said he will withhold no good thing from us. We've been convinced that we need God, and right. And so we've been convinced that we kind of mess it up when we're like, it's okay to desire companionship. It's not good for men to be alone. Like, so we have skin hunger as a part of our like biological makeup. Like, so that's why folks are really literally suffering in quarantine, right? Because so the need for the connection is not a problem. It's not anything wrong. But as you said, it is. Are all of your needs being met in God? And if so, then when you are seeking companionship, you're not doing it from a desperate or thirsty place, because they're not coming to fill a void. They're coming to complement an already sturdy foundation. They're coming to build. And if you don't have a co-builder, you're still good. The house will still stand. He'll just bring in the window dressings. Like, I don't need a throw pillow, but if a throw pillow comes in here, my couch looks amazing, right? I don't need a tufted suede headboard. My wood one works just as well, and I'm not like lacking anything. But it's just the looking at relationships and that connection as a complement and not a completion. And like beyond this idea of like 50-50, like we need to be 100. Like, we all whole and we're all doing our thing connected to. So that means, so when you do that, you can see it from that lens. You're able to see all the red flags. You're able to not, like, you're not in like being a court jester, like shucking and jiving and trying to like jockey for position. And a lot of times, because even just more men than women, like more women than men, or whatever the statistics are, like, even that already puts us, by default. And then you have Black women out earning and being more educated. Like, it already, like, all of these like lines in the sand that have been drawn, you know what I mean? And so it's just like, and then when we look at marriage as this highest achievement in life, it's always going to be this where we feel like we're bringing up the rear. And so when we bring this conversation to the seriousness that is, as Vernique did, with like just taking that Bible, like a lot of us are in error with how we are like making an idol out of the desire for a relationship.
Yeah, I'm
gonna
kind of
Jesus, my husband. And
girl,
so both things can be true. Okay.
I'm not gonna go there tonight. But to kind of tie in what Vernique and Brittany just said, I think one of the biggest mistakes that we can make as single women is to kind of go off and it just be us and God. And then it's like you don't have any community. You don't have any opposite sex friends. You don't have a life outside of like you going to work, going to church and your prayer life, right? And so when you live a life like that, you are by default going to be thirsty because you have deprived yourself of human interaction, right? And so when you have been deprived for so long, and then the first man that comes along and shows you attention, you're just like, oh my gosh, I need the affirmation, I need the attention, I need the consistency, I need the faithfulness, I need the commitment right now. He need to make up his mind what he doing. Sis, it's your thirst that is causing you to rush.
You just met.
You just met him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so again, when you have been deprived for a season, your discernment is not going to be on.
Yep.
Okay. Because again, you're just looking. And here's another thing, because we're going to get into this too. We're going to have some real talk. Another mistake that I've seen a lot of women make is the next person I date going to be my husband. What kind of pressure are you putting on him? What kind of pressure are you putting on yourself to have the idea of like, if the next person that approaches me is going to be my husband? So you're not going to see red flags. You're not going to enjoy the season for what it is. You're not going to just, genuinely get to know them as a person. You're going to be in your mind checking off your list. Does he match my husband list? Oh, he's saved, he's cute, he tall, and he got a good job. Sis, you know how many people are saved, cute, got a good job, and
They not
y'all
tall.
get along?
They not tall. All of
They
them.
not tall. Shout out to all the shorties in the world, 5'2" over here, so it really don't matter for us. But that's how a lot of times we experience these false starts, because you're in your little bubble and then you finally decide to pop out of your bubble. And then the first man that shows you attention, you try to put the title of husband on him. And that may not even be the one, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to pull out something Bree said in her first comment about, I think that as women, we prematurely commit. So we will mentally and emotionally connect ourselves to men that we don't even know. So let's talk about that, ladies. Like, what are some signs that we are attaching too soon? What are some signs that's like, girl, you done married this man in your mind and you crushing on him, but you don't even know this man's last name. So I'm gonna pass it to Bree. Was that Bree who said she wanted to go?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll only spit on that because honestly, I feel like it is a huge issue that we are dealing with. Actually, I think let me take my earphones out because I think there's a lot of feedback. But I think one of the biggest issues. Can you hear me? Okay. I feel like one of the biggest issues we have in the church is that we sit here and we tell them, like you said, to sit back, lay back, and let a man pursue you. But then you don't encourage women to date. You don't encourage us to learn how to talk to men. You don't encourage us to learn how to vet men. I was raised that way. I did not have that skill to know, okay, maybe I should find out how he treats his mom. Maybe I should find out if he has people that he goes to for advice. Maybe I should find out what his goals and dreams are and if they're in alignment with me. Maybe I should find out all those things before I even consider being in a relationship with him. Like I said, not saying there's anything wrong with that person, but I just don't think that every person is right for you. Like a lot of times I think we think I'm the best person in the world. Anybody should want me, but you shouldn't want anybody and anybody shouldn't want you because we're not all matched for each other. So as women, we will go and start talking to a man and be like, oh my God, he's amazing. Let's be with him. And then months later down the line, you realize, okay, he's rude. He has no prayer life. He doesn't tithe. He doesn't even know the Lord. He might have, who knows? And as a woman, women can do those things too. But there's like a lot of things you find out later on. You're like, dang, maybe if I would have vetted him before we even got in the relationship, I could have said, you know what, you're a great guy, but we're not compatible. But we prematurely commit, like you say, then we get in the relationship, then we find this stuff out. And then at that point, we're like, but I have feelings already. Let me just stick it out. And then you're like, well, I already told him I'd marry him. Let me just stick it out. I walked down the aisle. Let me just stick it out. Oh, we had a kid. And now we're like 15 years down the road. And then and then he's like, I'm throwing in the towel. Let's not be together. And I'm like, wait a minute. I should have said something 15 years ago. And I honestly feel like we would save everybody a whole lot of heartbreak if we would just stop and get to know people. And money, so much money, so much therapy. Therapy is great, but let's not cause ourselves to go into therapy in places we don't have to. But let's just have conversations with people. Let's just get to know people, find out if you're even the type of person that I could see myself being in a life with. And if not, that's great. I got to know somebody, had a nice time. Let's move on to the next person. I think about it like when you're applying for jobs, you're not just going to take any old job. You're going to look at the job that matches your skills, that matches your objectives, that's going to have a good employee. You want to find something that's going to work for you. You send out lots of job applications, but you only pick one job. But why do we not do that with dating? And in the church, they don't teach us women to do that. They teach us to sit back and whichever man picks us, go with it. And most of the time, it's the worst one. So as I said, we don't know these men. We don't know them. They don't even truly know us, but we've already had this idea in our mind, and most of the time it blows up. So we got to start doing better. We got to start teaching better. Otherwise, we're going to have so many more broken women in this world and men who are bitter from the broken women. It's a cycle. So
Let me say this real quick, because I feel like this is a word for somebody. Then I'm going to pass it to Brittany. This needs to be your kind of boundary, okay? Do not allow your emotions to go to a place where your feet have not gone. If you know you and that man are not in a relationship yet, temper back your thoughts, right? Temper back those emotions. If you got to pep talk yourself, wait, sis, you don't know nothing about this man. You just think he cute and he probably got a little anointing. And now you all in love because you feel like this is in alignment with what God said.
And he probably smelled good. And this really just throws us off. Nobody talks about that.
And you got some fashion about yourself, some style about yourself. Don't let the cologne get y'all caught up, ladies. Brittany, go ahead, girl. What you got?
But for real, like, because it'll like.
Ooh. And then they hug you, right? And then like if the height is right, then the smell be in your nose all day, and you just be like, "Damn."
Yeah, and you know what it is? My heart aches for more than the single one, like who's been single forever, never had a serious relationship. What she is yearning for is the supposed to be's, right? She's yearning for what folks are projecting as what she should want. And then there's this struggle between what do I really want? What am I supposed to want? What does everybody want or have on Instagram? So like there's like this amalgamation of all of these thoughts and figures that then weigh on her. So and she's like having to navigate all of that when she's seeking a partner. But then there's those women who just enter or who just left a really bad relationship. So the thing that is fresh on their mind is what that other person didn't do. And so a new one can come in and be like a different color trash. And because they mark all of the boxes that other one was missing, then it's just like, oh my God, there are guys, this is my beauty for ashes, right? And it's so hard to see past the blind spots that were created from, the struggle from before. Just like when you go, like, that's why I say, don't go to the market when you're hungry, because you're just going to be picking up a bunch of nonsense. That's why weight loss journeys work well with meal prepping, because you always have that thing right there. And if you left to your own devices, then you're going to, so when you're starving, you make bad decisions, just like you were saying earlier. So what we need to do to kind of pace ourselves, number one for me, don't consider a serious relationship with somebody until you've seen them in all seasons, or as many seasons as possible, because you should not be considering marriage with someone until you've seen them broke, or at the very least had a conversation with them about what broke would look like. You need to see them grieve. You need to see them angry. And so every relationship is not, there are volatile relationships where that's marked with a lot of arguments. And then, John Gottman says that volatile couples that argue a lot, or some of them report to be the most happiest. So that doesn't, just because you argue a lot, because I'm a fusser. So if you with me, we gonna fuss. I'm gonna love you. But we gonna fuss. And so that's just what it is. So that's not really necessarily a red flag per se, but looking at their communication styles, how does their language change towards you when they're upset. Like if you go from boo and baby to that's something that you need to know. That's not something you should find out on your wedding night. When you're talking about for people who are abstaining and the question is all the time, how am I supposed to figure out what's going on with sex if we're not having sex? You need to, like, you finding out on your wedding night that there's some type of no-go hard pass about oral sex because of some trauma from the past shouldn't happen on a wedding night when you've been waiting all the live long day for some sloppy toppy, respectfully, I'm sorry, and now you can't get it because
We
but y'all
bless
never
God.
talked
Oh, sorry.
and y'all never talked about that, right? And so what happens is people don't, and I'm not going to make this a woman thing, but people don't want to shake the table, especially when they think that something is going good. They don't want to knock anything over. So I'm going to move. I'm going to avoid this conversation. I'm going to move in this way. I'm going to say it this way. When their mother asked me to wear this stupid behind hat to church, I'm going to put it on because I don't want to upset mom, like all of those things, but literally like dying on the inside. And then when you marry them and you live with them and you can't avoid the doo-doo stains in the drawers, you can't avoid the fact that now you've seen them for the last 4 days ain't brushed their teeth when they woke up in the morning. You can't avoid that they got to sleep with Barry White at night, and you need to sleep in pure silence because we so stuck on the what's your favorite color. And I love a good what's your favorite color conversation. Like I don't know how to do dating. And Bernie can attest to this. Anybody that's been in my face or in my phone the last couple of months, within 2 days, I'm like, you want to play a game? Because that's my flirting. You want to play a game? And then I'm gonna send some riddles, something, and that's how I do. So we start there, but then also, if you were to lose your job tomorrow, what would you do? Like, and going from there, like, so seeing them, if you can't manufacture grief, if nobody dies, right? But you need to pace yourself, as you said, back to temper yourself back to see them in all of their spaces so that you can make an informed decision about whether this is where you want to go or not. And with folks, and this is an unpopular opinion, when you get married, you're not committing to a person for life. You're committing that to the person that they are in that moment, that as long as they stay that way, then I'm committing to you, because you can't commit to what you don't know is going to happen down the road. But what you can commit to is, I'm going to try. I like you right now. What I know of you right now, I love you. You're amazing. But 200 pounds from now, 50,000 less dollars from now, 50,000 more dollars from now, because people make more money and start acting funny, right? You have to be able to see them in spaces where you can make an informed decision and project what could happen in the future so that you are prepared whenever you all get there. And that's in ministry, or spiritual, like just personal relationship. Like Bree said, you don't even tithe, so that ain't gonna work. Like I need to know, like if you've never said anything about, I gotta go to ATM, or I gotta use my church's cash app or something, that's like even when we tell them all the time, like don't give them husband privileges and all those things, but when you're at a certain place, you gotta see if his mind doesn't shift to then then he could be selfish. Like all of those things you have to be paying attention to. And when you're doing that assessment space, that really kind of keeps your feelings at bay by default, because it's not an interrogation. Like you're not like putting them under the microscope, but also you're doing your research, and research is not goo goo gaga. Research is okay, all right, and go from it. And then also asking yourself is like, okay, he's on the track to make $50,000 more dollars, $100,000 more dollars, $1 million more dollars than where he is right now. What track am I on? Where are my finances going to go? He's talking about, he wants a wife that stays home and raises 9 kids. He's fine. He's 6'7". Never mind. Sorry, but sorry, I forgot for a second. I apologize. I forgot. Stop giving me the microphone. But I don't want no more kids. And so, in transparency, my first husband, I wanted him. And so I can vividly remember that still small voice in my chest saying, stop lying, when we had that rubber meets the road conversation, and he was like, do you want children? And he was like, you said you ain't want children, so what are we doing with it? And I was just like, Oh no, I only said that because I don't want to raise no kid alone. But I know you would be a great dad. I would never worry about that in you. And that still small voice was like, girl, you know you don't want no kids. And so like you like when you think back of all of those past relationships and that gut feeling when you ignored something or push something out your mind, all those things. Bring that with you. We always learn them lessons and then leave them lessons in the house when we get to something brand new. Bring them things with us. That's how you keep them. That's how you keep the goo goo gaga away, where you bring your good sense with you on the date. And then keep them from rubbing your back. Don't get no back rubs, and then you be good.
Brittany, the intimacy firm, our resident sexologist, everyone.
Don't
The
clap
back
for her.
rubs is
She's
the
about to get
devil,
removed.
child.
She's about to get removed. Don't clap for her. Don't egg
The
her
way
on.
she put this
I'm
fist up
sorry,
almost
you
sent
let me
me.
talk too long.
Before I kind of ask a segue question, Mother, did you have anything? I don't even remember what my question was, but did you have anything?
I don't remember your question either, but I will say if you want help having productive conversations in your relationships in order to drive intimacy and connection, you can go to www.authenticallywed.com/shop and grab our Close Closer Conversation Starter Pack today for only $23.99. 2 decks. One gets you close. So if you're in the beginning stages, you just met that man, don't touch closer. Just close.
Just go.
Okay?
Friendship.
And go through the questions. If y'all been talking for a couple months, add the second deck, mix it up. If y'all engaged, just stick with closer. Okay? Girls' nights, all of that. So get the Closer Conversation Starter Pack. I actually have to mail some this week. So if you order tonight, I will give y'all a coupon code. If you order tonight, I'll mail it out tomorrow.
Hey, let's go. Let's get it.
But that's all I want to say on that.
Now that we're back from our commercial break, I have just another hot topic that I feel causes us to have a lot of false starts. Let's talk about consistency, y'all, because I think that each person has an idea of what they want from a man concerning consistency, right? Some women are like, I want consistency from day one. I want a good morning text every day from the time I give you my phone number. I'm expecting text throughout the day. Send me some little emojis and let's talk all the time and et cetera, which it sounds like that's what Brittany wants. But like the reality is, going back to our point we just made, you don't know him and he don't know you. So why are we expecting commitment from day one?
Yeah, can I say something about that?
Mm-hmm.
So there was something during a man cave, and I hate to cuss like that during our time together.
I know.
So I do apologize for using dirty language. But there was a man cave quite a while ago where one of the young men said, a lot of you don't want consistency, you want constantly. And while I was offended immensely, okay, they almost got fired that day. It shook me and it made me evaluate my expectations. So the first thing is no one can be there constantly. It's not even fair for you to expect that, especially if there is no level of commitment, more specifically marriage, right? Where you expect them to be available. But even at the level of marriage, we're one, but we still have our individual lives to lead. There are just things that are going to happen. I'm not going to be there, or I may not be there for every single moment. And so I think that I'll put myself on the altar first. I have been guilty of wanting constantly, but not looking at what consistently means to them. Now, there is, and Brittany and I have this conversation often. I think that it is important to know how much you need, how much makes you feel safe. However, safety and feeding into your insecurities is two different things, right? So when you want him to talk to you every moment of every day because you want to feel important, that has more to do with you than the quality of the relationship and what his capacity is. So it's important for us to check our hearts and to see, and this is why, again, not to, be commercial centric, but if you like, a lot of that has to do with healing and trauma. A lot of us are looking to heal our past traumas through present day people. And because my dad wasn't there, because my mom wasn't there, because I was abandoned, because I was a latchkey kid, because my teachers told me I wasn't anything, now this new man that comes into my life has to fix all of that for me, while I have not yet, this fan is killing me, while I have not yet done the work to actually deal with it myself and allow God to rewrite that narrative in my life so I can be secure in the next relationship. And the fact of the matter is, like, do I like a lot of communication? Yes, I do. Like, when I'm dating somebody, I do like to hear from you, a text or a call every day. But I also have a life now that is very busy. Like, if I were to sit on the phone, the amount of time like that I like the goo goo gaga in me would want to, I wouldn't get much done. Like, you don't have two businesses and make the kind of money that I plan on making sitting on the phone all day, right? And the type of impact that I want to have, that I have to choose. And so when I look at it in that way, and I also am mindful of the fact that, the young man that I'm speaking to, that I'm talking to, that I'm spending time with, because I choose quality men, they probably have a life as well that needs tending to, right? What if they have kids? What if they're responsible for their parents? What if they work a corporate job? You like the benefits, but he actually has to go and work. So with that being said, we have to be very, very cautious about our expectations and make sure that we're not expecting people to fill voids for us, but that what we do expect is based off of their capacity, and it meets our level of safety, and us being willing to compromise on that too. So while I may want to hear from you every day, if you live a type of life where it's really, really packed full, then what I can do is, hey, you know what? At the very least, can we have a text thread going and like 2 phone calls a week? That is reasonable, right? So understanding the difference between consistency and constantly, and not assuming that because somebody doesn't speak at the amount and level that you want them to, that doesn't mean they're disinterested. And then also checking what you see as consistency and making sure it's not connected to a void.
So don't try to get your past trauma healed the present people. Did y'all hear that?
That's what she said.
Because here's what's happening right now. In essence, what she says is y'all need to heal for real. And if you didn't know, Mother has a whole Heal for Real course coaching program that she really helps you get it and really separate. Here's the thing, Brittany. I'm going to use your stuff on you. This is what separates the story from the narrative, right? You know me better than anybody on the thing, Becca, you know. But everybody else, I'm a lot, right? And so when I'm in situations, I'm not going to claim that constantly, and whoever said that, fight me, because at this point. And so, but with consistency, it is a matter of, what it is for me is being able to match what I'm willing to offer. So as much as you have to be mindful of that, you're not, again, doing what Veronique said, trying to fill void, and really, or you in a relationship that you don't feel like you're good enough to be in. So you want to let the metric system of how much he really likes you be how much he reaches out to you, because he can call you, text you every day and still be, this is a safe space, still be digging in somewhere else just because he has the time, right? Because the thing that I also work a full-time job and running a business, have 2 kids to raise, but I'm on the phone with my family most of the day. But that's what we do. So the thing is that it's not that it's impossible. What you also have to look at is making sure you're able to match communication styles, because for some people, and then also make sure you're not being selfish, because if you are expecting that consistent all day, you don't get to pick and choose when you don't feel like it, because that's the other thing that a lot of us do. We want to be chased. And so we want the consistently, we want the constantly, But then we want to be able to have the opportunity to flee them too. We want to be able to look at the phone and let the messages pile up. We want to look at the missed calls. We want to look at the voicemail, the miss, all of that, and see that name a bunch of times. And then that feeds something in here, which is the arrogance of a whole nother color. At the same time, being mindful of, but also for those who are watching it, but like, what's wrong with talking on the phone? Like the things like I can multitask. I can do my work and talk. I can do my work and text. And if you're not a good texter, like if you have like 10, 15, 30-minute intervals of text messages, one or two things need to happen. You need to say, hey, I can't have my phone on the floor. Like a friend of mine, he can't have his phone on the floor where he works. So I understand that. So I'm not expecting. There's also the matter of expectation. And so where, to Becca's point about expecting commitment from people that you're getting to know, I don't know if it's a matter of, well, some people, yes, they want a ring in marriage, and like, why you didn't call me today? You just met him 3 minutes ago. So I get that. But then there's also like, say what's up. Like, so that I know what's going on. Because I think that's a lot of times what happens with this whole, I thought he was bae, is because today I get this from you. Tomorrow I get this from you. And that's a part that also fosters some of this behavior, because then you're frazzled and like, what am I supposed to do? And so
but see, Brittany, that's my concern, because we will put an expectation of consistency without people showing us who they are already. So if I have a whole life happening, right? And if I was to meet someone new, my world has to make an adjustment to you being here. So I'm not used to talking to you all the time, right? So I may forget to call you because you're new. Like, I don't talk to you every day. You're not in my routine of people that I talk to. And I'm not saying that like out here being a player, but just in my routine of life of talking to people, right?
Yeah.
And so how fair is it for me to meet you on day one and have in my mind, this is what consistency is, and you have in your mind, this is what consistency is, and because you didn't meet my unspoken expectations, now I'm throwing you back out into the river with the other fishes, because I feel like you ain't legit, but I didn't even give you a chance.
That you said the key part, the unspoken expectations, because you can expect what you want. They don't have to comply. And then if you expect the thing and they aren't able to comply, then you have to leave it be. What the problem comes in at, you have those expectations and they're unspoken, or you have those expectations and they are spoken. This person is clearly either unwilling or unable to meet that, and then you continue down that path and then continue fussing and continue making yourself mad. We get the problem comes in. You have the expectation as you want. You can want what you want. It's your business. But you also have to be willing to, with expectations comes accountability. And most of the time, the one that needs to be held accountable is ourselves. We set these expectations, we all loud and proud about them. And then when people fall short, then we change the expectation to fit this person that we really, really want. And so there's nothing wrong with wanting to talk all day. There's now, again, if it becomes a void filler, then that's one thing. But if that's just like it's just your flow. Like, the things that's my, like I said, I talk to my family all day, whether it's my kids or whoever, that I'm on the phone with somebody, either text message or whatever, all day. That's just a part of my thing. That's my flow. So for me, I'm not having to shift my world because it's what I already do. So for somebody who doesn't fit in that, I have the decision to make, to either say, I'm gonna be patient until they come along, or no, this is not gonna work and I'm gonna throw it back. And it's not a problem. It's just that's not a fit for me. We look at these red flags and we see that they're not a fit, but for fear of being alone, we start changing it. We start dipping them in bleach and making them a little pink or trying to get them white when they are. Because I was talking about this the other day. Red flags aren't always, oh, he toxic. Oh, she bad with money. Oh, she hit me. It's not always that kind of toxicity. It is red flags is also, I like this. I'm very much interested in this. This person wants no part of that. So just my wants and interests, this person falls outside of. That could also be a relationship red flag. But for fear of being alone, we be like, oh, I guess I can deal with that. But you're a stamp collector, or you go to Comic-Con every 3 months, and they think that Comic-Con is stupid, but you're like, oh, everybody doesn't like Comic-Con, but it's very important that you envisioned your whole life somebody that was going to be draped in costume with you at these things every 3 months, and now you're convincing yourself that it's okay that they don't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it's the accountability issue isn't always external. It's like, what do you want and what are you willing to wait on?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm gonna pull y'all two in here as well. I think that makes sense once you've kind of gotten to know somebody. My thing, just my original point, just my little 2 cents. If I meet you today, I'm not expecting you to call me every day, and I'm not expecting you to reach out to me all day when I don't know you. Like, you don't even know if you like me yet to invest that type of energy. And I think that some women, they have this expectation that once we exchange numbers, from day one, it needs to be at the rate of 100 miles per hour. When it's like, usually when that happens, I could be wrong. Usually when you jump out the gate that fast and your pace is going that fast, it's going to fizzle out. And you're going to be like, wow, it was so passionate in the beginning. We were into each other. We were dating all the time, blah, blah, blah. And then it was like we said earlier, once I got to know this person, I realized I don't really like them. I like the rush. I like the feeling, like you said, of being chased and things like that. And so, Bree, what you got, girl?
I'm laughing.
I'll be on the soapbox all night. But
no, you're fine. Have you guys ever heard of that phrase, the hottest love has the coldest end? And that came to my mind when you were just saying what you were saying, because I can think back at specific situations where somebody came into my life, like this is like years ago, and I was like, this is it, this is the guy, whatever. And it was so intense and so good. And not only did it not last very long, but it ended bad. And I honestly feel like I agree with what Vernique said. Like, we are absolutely emotional going into these situations with these people. You put all these expectations. If you would ask me 10 years ago, you need to call me every day. We need to be texting all day long. Half the time I'm like, I don't even know how I was getting schoolwork done. How I was doing all these things. I'm wasting all this time with these people. There's so many other things I could have been doing, but I was wasting time. But that's because, like you said, we're sitting there asking each other, what's your favorite color? Or over here just talking about nothing. Right now, where I am, and as an adult, I'm like, I prefer quality over quantity. So I feel like it's not the quantity of time you're spending, the quantity of conversations you're having, it's the quality. What are we really discussing? And does it have any reference to, like, do I want to spend a life with you? If we are saying that we are women of faith and we want to be in a marriage, if that's what your intent is, you should be gathering data. Is this man compatible to my life to be a husband, to be a partner, not only a partner in marriage, but a partner in what I want to do, how I want to affect the kingdom of God, how I want to affect the world, and a father? Just think about all the people in this world who have issues because of the way that they were raised or not raised by their parents. And so realistically, choosing a mate is one of the most important decisions we can make. So why do we not pre-qualify these people before we even get into a relationship by just saying, oh, I like him, he's cute, like you said, he's tall, he has a good job, but is that good job going to pray for you when you're getting ready to have your baby? You might be going through some health issues or something. Is that man who's real tall, is he going to be the one that's going to go to God for you when you're dealing with the passing of a loved one and you don't think you can go on? Is he the person, like, literally? And so sometimes I just think about how foolish I was when I was younger, and I really, like, the only thing that mattered was he cute and did he make me feel good? Did he give me butterflies? And I'm like, that doesn't last. I had a really great example with my parents. I watched my mom take care of my dad through cancer, dealing with cancer, till the day that he died. She was there. And I'm like, that's the type of relationships I feel like we should be striving for, people who have, like, quality. Like, what can you add to my life? What can I add to your life? And so realistically, yes, we absolutely need to get Vernique's closer game, because we are not having the conversations we should have. No, like, seriously, when you're thinking about what we're talking about with people, how often are you having conversations that actually reveal to you what type of person that they are? I'm just thinking about how many times I didn't ask, okay, do you have siblings? Do you actually talk to your siblings? Why don't you talk to them? What happened? Did you fall out with them? Okay, how about your parents? What's your relationship with your parents? When's the last time you talked to them? I don't talk to my parents anymore. Why? I feel like we need to find out the reason why people do and don't do the things that they do. Why they are or are not where they are. Why they feel like, why? I need to know why. Gathering all this data, Why are you like this? So I can decide if the future that we have is going to match. Because like you said, if we don't find this out, we're going to find it later on. And I'm just thinking about a relationship that I was in where I thought this guy was amazing. And I'm like, oh, he's a great man of God. He's going to be perfect in life, whatever. And then I find out that you don't like your mom. And you don't have a good relationship with your mom. And eventually the way you feel about your mom is it's going to trickle back down to me. And it did eventually. And it's one of those things where it's like, whoa, what if I had not asked the question that I asked or saw what I saw and then made a decision to say, you know, I wish you well and I hope you work this out, but this is not where I think I should be. If we spent more time gathering data and seeing if somebody is going to match my ideals, my goals, my dreams, all those things, because we all have different things. Some people are okay with certain stuff. Some people aren't. I know what I am and I'm not okay with. And he should know as well. And if we are not in alignment with those things, then we should not even be having 24-hour conversations. We don't have the time for that. Like, let's just say, so quality for me is like 100%. And I like I said, I think that we have this quantity that we want the constant because we are lacking something in ourselves. And it is affirmation, like, oh, he wants me. Oh, he wants to talk to me. Oh, he makes me feel good, whatever. But I'm like, we're wasting time. We just don't have time. Like, I'm too old for this. At this point, I'm like, look, we just need to get a little bit more mature in our lives and just stop.
Absolutely. My best friend and I, sorry to say this real quick. My best friend and I say this all the time, that we think a lot of women just want to be worshiped. Like it's not reciprocal. Like it's chase me, pursue me, love me, adore me. And it's like we have been conditioned to be like these little princesses in the tower, just waiting for Prince Charming to come and rescue us and go across the moat and swim with alligators and fight down the fire-breathing dragon and do all these things to show us how much they like us. And we're not willing to do any work to get to know them. Someone asked a question here and I wanted to kind of throw it out. Vernique, go ahead and give your point and then I'm going to pose this question.
I forgot. I was agreeing with Bridget and saying, I don't remember. It wasn't important.
Okay. So there are a few questions coming in. The first one I saw, do y'all think women ask more intentional questions than men?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. I think that women ask more intentional questions than men because women have to. I think men can just show up and then women will just, and so women have learned to, or have had to ask specific questions to get, a man to talk. Even if you're in a relationship with men, like if you ask them, how was your day? It was cool. And like, so you have to ask like specific questions to get the right information out. Like, what are you doing today? Going to the mall. Who are you going to the mall with? Some friends. Which friend? Like, so, and what happens, it gets to a place where it comes off like interrogation, but because they answer just like parts of the question and things like that, and some that like it's a way of communication. And I think it was a study somewhere that said women say like 7,000 more or 10,000 more words a day than men. That's a privilege. Men can say less and work less to get their needs met. Women have to work harder and say more to get those same needs met. And so as far as your point about asking intentional questions, in our life to navigate this world, we have to move that way. So what in a relationship, what comes off as interrogation to some, and I'm glad that they use the word intentional because that's what it is. It's not an interrogation, it's actually intentional question asking to see as a way to get our needs met. That's something that we have to do to exist in a world that we bring up the rear end.
Got it.
Can I say something right here though?
Go ahead.
While I think women may ask more intentional questions and we bring up more intentional points of conversation, I think men do a better job at having more intentional observation and action. So while we want them to communicate back, what men are really good at doing is watching and observing and then making the decision that best serves them. And so that's why you can be with a man for a while and then like they don't, which I'm not celebrating this part, but like, you can be with them and you're like, every week you're saying what bothers you and they're just like, we're good. And then one day y'all break up and you're like, but it came out of nowhere. They were observing while you were talking. Right? You was doing all of this and they were like, taking notes. They were collecting the data, and then they made an executive decision about whether or not it would fit their lives. I'm not saying that's every man all the time, but if we're comparing the two generalizations, I think that men are more executive and women are more like communicative. We're more verbal, and we're going to try and extract that information, and we'll still curate actions that may not be in line with the information that we've gathered.
We convinced ourselves otherwise. And I think fifth in the comments that men observe and women interrogate. I don't think that, I love Fitz. Fitz, I love you. But also, I think interrogation is such a strong word, particularly when we empower and encourage people to have intentional conversations. Intentional conversations are going to ask the thing that you don't get, the questions that aren't commonplace. With the close and closer cards, what's the fruit of the spirit? What fruit of the spirit do you struggle with? That's not an interrogation. I really need to know what's up. And then what that'll do is that'll lead to deep conversation. What Bree said about but why though? And so, because what it says, like, just don't give me that surface stuff, because the thing is that if I'm asking questions and I can see you being surface, or you're hiding, or it could be, we can pace it, because there are certain information, like I'm not going to tell you a lot of my past sexual trauma on the first date. So it definitely has to be paced, and there's a responsibility to vulnerability for sure, but also, again, this is what I'm saying. There's like that privilege there where men have, I think somebody said we can't afford to observe, because you could just sit back and the woman's going to play your role and theirs, because that's in this way, and using his own language, we're in this like Hunger Games space where I got to do what I got to do. And just in case you find it hard to do what you got to do, I'm going to start it for you. You know what I mean? And then you can just pick it up where you get off. Matter of fact, I'm gonna carry right to the finish line. You go ahead and just knock it over, because that's what we've been taught needs to happen, again, from that place of desperation or thirst. But it really is just women tend to be more thoughtful, tend to be more detail oriented. All of that is going to show in its communication style. It doesn't necessarily, because an interrogation is to find out what something that was done wrong. An investigation is oftentimes when something has been done wrong, as opposed to intentional exploration. I want to find, I want to discover, I want to learn.
So,
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Bree.
No, I was gonna say I agree. I do agree with that. I feel like I've been listening to a lot of conversations, like just a fly on the wall, with like hearing men talk about how they feel. And there's so much back and forth. Like, I feel like men think that women are, interrogating, and they're so intense. And then the women think that men don't talk, whatever. And there's just so much back and forth. And I was like, okay, maybe the issue is that we all need to learn how to talk to people. I don't think that we should be communicating with men the same way we communicate with women.
That part.
And I feel like there's a lot of people that don't agree, because they think I should just be able to be who I am. You should accept me. But no, but it's not working. And so as an adult in an adult space, I'm like, all right, this has not been working for X amount of years. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again. So what can I do to make this better? Let me learn how to communicate with men. Maybe I need to change my tone. Maybe I need to learn how to ask questions in a different way. Maybe I need to make a shift. And when I made a shift in that way, I can actually say, like, I don't typically run into men who don't communicate. They actually over communicate. I have a great communication space with men. I'm just finding out that we're not in the right information, but I'm getting the information. It's just that I'm realizing that our information is not matching. So I feel like there's a lot of angry women out there, and there's a lot of frustrated men. And like, as women, I think we just need to start utilizing a different approach. And I think we'll get different results, and you'll be able to at least stop wasting time with a silent man. You'll be able to get quicker through the process with a man who's telling you exactly what it is. So you can say, oh, I don't like that. Let me move on. And now you've only wasted 2 weeks as opposed to 2 years, so that's all I have to say about that.
Girl, someone already highlighted. I was just about to call this out. Angel wrote a comment. She said, I think it's about the presentation, and also someone unwilling to communicate or be vulnerable is always going to feel like they're being interrogated. What I have learned about men have pockets of vulnerability, and men have pockets where they want to talk. So what you can do is optimize that time. If you're in a relationship, if you're married, or if you're just getting to know a guy and you notice, hey, he's being talkative, that's your time to kind of sit back and let that man just go. And if he feels safe, if he feels like, you know what, I can continue to be vulnerable, you can slide some questions in there that don't come across like being interrogated. Because whether you're male or female, who wants to answer 21 questions? We need to learn how, well, we know Brittany, because she loves games, not playing games. She loves games. But we have to learn how to have conversations. We have lost the art of, like, you say something, oh, I make a comment, or I say something and you make, like, we've lost that back and forth. That should be somewhat natural when you're talking to someone. But again, if the agenda in the back of your mind is this my husband, your conversation is not going to flow. You're trying to figure out within 24 hours, is this person going to be someone who, you know, I could potentially marry in the future? And so I wanted to pull that out. I think there was one more. There was one more question.
While you're looking for it, I just want to like virtually like stand Bree for making that one point about stop communicating with men the same way you communicate with women.
Yes.
My girlfriends can get the whole story beginning to end. To my man, I'm probably going to have to give the abbreviated.
Give the Cliff Notes.
Right? And that helps to keep communication. One, it shows that I'm paying attention to his needs, to his styles, to whatever, while I still get to give the information. And it creates a consistent safe space in the relationship to where they know, like, I'm not just, I'm curating our relationship and how I engage in it to them. Likewise, I need them to do the same to me. And that is what biblical love is, right? Like being so focused on loving the other person, even in our communication. See, we think love and communication are separate. You love in your communication. And so I'm so focused on loving you that even in my communication, I'm focused on that. And likewise, you are such to me, so that way nobody is ever left untouched.
Mm-hmm. And I think to Becca's point really quickly, with it not flowing, can you hear me?
Yep, you're good now.
Okay, sorry. With it not flowing is because we, like you said, you have in your mind, this is going to be my husband. So you're not listening to understand, you're listening to respond. You're waiting for the break in the conversation to run down all of your questions. And that's why the collecting data part has to be stewarded well. Because yes, you are collecting data, meaning this is a information gathering space, but it still needs to be organic. If you come in with if you're playing close and closer, sure, there's going to be a strategic part to these questions. But if we're just at dinner and we're just talking, like it shouldn't just be a checklist, because you can come in with ideas of, if you practice, if you're nervous on the date or whatever, come in with ideas. But if you ask a question and he answers it in a way that leads the conversation somewhere else, be confident and comfortable with going the way the direction is going, unless it's something inappropriate that you have to shut down. But don't be like, oh, okay, that's cool. So what about your mom? And he's talking about his automotive interests. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to be, and that's what's happening is because it was like, I need to know if he does this. I need to know if he does that. We've like kind of over complicated it, and we want to speed through. We're just not comfortable with pacing and needing to know that we've made an idol out of certainty. And so it's like, I got to get this. I got to get that. I got to do that. Tell me this. Tell me that. And it's like, we have to pace it better.
I don't know what happened.
Bree, you forgot to get. I forgot to give you your fan on that. We got.
Oh no, you're good.
That was good.
Brittany, you're on mute. You're still on mute. There we go.
I feel like the fanning. I feel the next one. Like we need like go ahead and give out fans so everybody can have one at the appropriate time. Right. I feel like
I know. You know what? I have one. I need to. I'm gonna pull it out for this.
Listen, I need me a little church fan or something.
I have a yellow one. I'm gonna have to pull that thing out.
I need one. Sorry, I don't know what just happened, but I kind of wanted to a few questions and comments that are going on, and then I want to go into kind of like some resolutions. Okay. So there were a few comments about whether something, if you were to ask a follow-up question, does that come across as interrogation? I think it is important to gauge kind of how the conversation is going, to kind of piggyback. I forgot who said this earlier, but to kind of piggyback, if you notice that you're asking questions and that person is not receptive, continuing to press in to ask more questions is not going to help. That's going to make a situation worse. If the conversation is just flowing and you're like, oh, okay, well, you just said such and such. Tell me more about that. And, there's a way. Here's something I actually learned from a company I used to work with. When you ask open-ended questions, it doesn't feel like an interrogation, right? If you're asking questions, that's like an answer is going to be yes, no, my mom, my dad, those type of responses, it's going to feel like an interrogation. Whereas if you were to say, tell me about blah, 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 that gives them the space to kind of tell you what they want to tell you. And we have to be people who respect other people's boundaries. So to piggyback on something that Fitz said, if someone asks you a question, or if you ask someone a question, they're not obligated to answer, especially if they're not ready to give that level of vulnerability to you just yet. And so that's not the time to get defensive and to be like, he just don't want to talk. Maybe he's not ready to share that part of his life with you just yet. And that is okay. All right. So as we kind of, wrap this up a little bit, I want to talk about how do we manage disappointment? How do we manage, when you do meet a guy and it's like, man, he was cool. We started to converse. Things were going well. And then nothing. And even if you've had series of kind of these false starts, let's talk about how do you manage expectations. Mother, I'm going to start with you. Miss Hill, for real.
I am muted to pass it to Brigitte, and I can talk just to honor our chat curators tonight. But one reason why I really wanted Bri to get on this conversation in particular is because she, like, I'm trying not to be like mushy about it, but I love me some Bri. Okay, so Bri and I, like, we have like one of those relationships where like we'll slide in each other's DMs like once every few months. And I watched her be in a relationship and it ended, and like she was whole and healthy at the end. It wasn't bitter, it wasn't anything. And on top of that, she's just a woman of wisdom. And I absolutely love her. So I really want you to share your experience if you're okay with that. But in short, I think that the way that you manage disappointment is managing your expectations on the front end. So how you manage it on the front end is managing your expectations, knowing like that dating is making it fun, making it like it's not like this end of the world situation, like it's a process. And then also the way that you actually avoid disappointment is the word of God, which says those who trust in the Lord will not be disappointed. Stop putting your hope and your faith in a person that cannot fulfill said hope. God can. And so as a single woman, if you are pursuing dating, understand that you're doing it as a daughter in Christ first. You are secure, you are whole, you are, whatever. And if you're not, then I would recommend, my program or something, or therapy. But it starts with your expectations being in Christ and knowing that he has your best interest at heart and that he will withhold no good thing from you. Like, I think I know we joke around a lot in here, but the word of God is the foundation, right? And so it has the answers that you need. Like those who hope in him will not be put to shame, and he is withholding no good thing from you. And so as I engage with men, I don't have to have the weight of disappointment on my shoulders because my hope wasn't in them. Now, do we get hurt? Is it sad sometimes when we get so far, right, that and we don't see that fulfillment, right? So I think it's Proverbs talks about a dream deferred makes the heart sick. And so sometimes, like when you get that far, right, you've been with that person for months, y'all got to the commitment stage or whatever, like y'all started talking about marriage and whatever, and then it falls apart. Like that can sting a little bit, right? There's no over spiritualization to that. Sometimes it just hurts and it feels like a dream deferred. and you feel heartbroken. But I think the way that you pursue that is to know, like, it's not the end of the world. There is life after this. And just like picking up your mat and walking again. Like, don't stay down too long. I'm not a big person, unless you were with that person for like a long time and it got really deep or something. I'm not a big person on, like, if y'all were just dating, like, oh, I gotta, be in timeout for 6 months and do all of that. Like, no, like, process the hurt with the Lord, eat your ice cream with your girlfriends, and then get out there and try again. Like, it doesn't have to be an all year event. It happens. Breakups happen. And so just knowing, like, when you're coming in, knowing what to expecting appropriately, keeping your heart, keeping your hope in the Lord. But if you do feel hurt, honor that, process that, and then pick up your mat and keep walking.
Well, I always appreciate you bringing, and I tell you all the time, because and I'll say on the front end, before we even get to the relationship and actually dating, I can say that being in a space where you have other women you can look up to, that you're like, wow, that powerful woman of God, not only is she in my sphere, but you're somebody that kind of like motivates me to also be at that level so that I can make those good decisions. I can say that I haven't even met you in person, Veronique, and you influence me just by being who you are. And so I think it's very important as women for us to have women like that in your sphere, to where you can say, oh, I can look at my sister, and if I tell her the story, I can have faith that she is going to, one, uplift me and say, you know what, God has better for you. Or, you know what I mean? Just those things. I feel like that's like a huge part of it. So having that sisterhood, I feel like if you don't have the support, you're a lot more likely not to leave something you should leave, because you feel like you don't have the support to do so, or you don't see somebody else being able to do it. Like, you don't feel comfortable doing it. So just like a very short version of that relationship. So I spent most of my 20s messing up a relationship. I did everything the wrong way, 100%. Like, I did nothing right, nothing right. And so the last relationship I was in, I really did take the time to heal. I took the time to focus on God. I was in a great space. And this guy that I was friends with, we ended up, getting into a friendship, and then we did end up in a relationship. The difference between that relationship and other relationships is that I did keep God in it. I prayed to God about it. I felt like I felt peace to move forward. I didn't pressure this man. And just to kind of talk about really quickly about the whole communication with that man, even though our relationship didn't work out, I know one of the biggest things, and he will say that to this day, that I did with him is I made him feel safe. I never pressured him. I never forced him to tell me anything. And I literally created such a safe space that he was telling me everything. I didn't even ask for it. And I just kind of learned to lean into my femininity and who I am as a woman, to be that woman, to make him to feel that safe space. And so our relationship, he wasn't a bad guy. However, like I said, there was things that I found out that weren't in alignment. And once I felt God kind of nudge me and saying things are not going the way it should be, I was like, oh, dang, really? I had told everybody. We done did a huge reveal on social media. Instagram saw it, Facebook saw it, met friends, family, parents, and I'm like, dang, this is gonna be embarrassing. But then I thought about it. I was like, I literally thought about this from the sermon. Pastor Mike Todd said, any place that God isn't is like the worst place to be. And I honestly felt like God did not want me to be in that situation. So I had to make a hard choice. I was like, do I stay in this relationship and not hurt his feelings and be out of the will of God? Or do I do what God says and believe and trust that he has something better for me? So I made the decision. I did it. He was hurt. I actually felt felt more bad for him than I did for myself, because he was hurt. But then at the end of it, and we took the stuff down on social media, and how people notice, oh, I noticed he took the pictures down. All of that happened. Like, I felt very embarrassed, but at the end of the day, I am so glad that I listened to God when he said to go, because I didn't want him to get to a point to where he had to shove me out of the situation because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. That only came from a level of maturity. So I said, handling the disappointment. I was disappointed and I was sad, and I had moments where I was like a little bit like, dang, did I make the right decision? And then I had to just give it back to God. But it mainly was putting what I know God has for me first. He's not a bad guy. He's could be a great guy for somebody else, but why would I hold on to something that I know God doesn't want for me? So handling disappointment is just keeping at the forefront the best. I want the best that God has, but I don't want his plan B, C, D, E. I want his plan A. And clearly it just wasn't the right thing. So I think that I would say that would be the biggest thing. And also the mistakes that I feel like I did make was kind of going into it too deeply. I think that I put too much emotion in it and not enough strategy. Like, and I don't say strategy of like trying to get over on somebody. Like I said, I think that we need to be strategic about asking questions. Maybe you don't ask 50 questions on the first date, but maybe you can get 3 questions from the closer deck or from somewhere else to where you could say, I'm going to ask these 3 questions. And the first question, I'm going to allow it to rabbit hole itself into something else. Maybe I'll ask a second question midday, the third question at the end of the day. At least every time you go out with this person, you can get 3 questions answered or 1 question answered. We have to figure out how to get this information instead of sitting there on the phone saying, oh, what are you doing? That's how you start getting those feelings, and we start feeling some type of way. And I feel like that's when we start going into a space of, okay, now you don't even know this person, but you're falling in love. Like, but we don't know them. We just have to be more about gathering data, getting to know people as friends, being open and not just take the pressure off. As women, we put so much pressure on. I got to get married. There's not enough men. There's no godly men. I'm one of 500 women fighting for the same man and all this. And it's like you said, like if we are women of God and if God has for us what he has for us, then it's going to be there. We don't have to compete for it. We don't have to audition for it. We don't have to force it. It's going to be there. Obviously, we have to put some action into it, but I just don't know why we put so much pressure. Like, take the pressure off. Just talk to the man, get to know him. If anything, you had a nice meal and you guys respected each other, you were great company and you moved on. But I think if we can do more of that, then we can avoid the disappointment. Stop putting too much into it that you're not willing. Don't put I think Tora said this, don't put so much into it that if it didn't pan out in the end that your feelings would be hurt. So if you know spending 3, 4, 5 hours on the phone is going to be a lot for you to where if you walked away tomorrow, you'd be upset, then don't do that. Maybe have a 30-minute conversation. Maybe have a 10-minute conversation. You have to know yourself. Find out what you can deal with, what you can handle, and do that. And then don't allow anybody to cross your boundary there. But we have to start with us. And then, from there, you can show people how to respect your boundary. But how are they supposed to know if you don't say anything? And how are you supposed to say something if you don't know, if you never asked yourself? So we all have to start taking a deep look at what we can and cannot tolerate, what we can and cannot do, and take responsibility for our part in it. It's not always the men. We're putting pressure on them. And like I said, we don't know these men. They don't know us. We don't have any stake and claim. They do not owe us a relationship on day one. They don't know us. And we wouldn't want them to, because imagine if that man came up the first day and was like, I want to marry you. Think he was crazy. That's probably how he's looking at us. So stop trying to get him in a relationship and you don't know. And let's just figure out how to just be friends and then go from there. And I think we'll be okay.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think a lot of us have been there where it's like, it's going down the right path. And then God is like, hold on, daughter. And I'm grateful for that, right? I'm grateful that, God intercepts us in those relationships that he knows is not going to be for our good. And I think that because he's such a good father, that sometimes he will block those things, right? He's like, this may hurt right now, but if I let you continue, the heartbreak is going to be 10 times worse. So let's go ahead and end this in the dating phase so that you don't have to, get married and then go through a divorce and, all that type of stuff, because that is a trauma in and of itself. Brittany, you have any final thoughts as far as like how to manage like disappointment or your expectations?
So, managing expectations for me are a lot of times expectations that lead to disappointment are either unrealistic, unexpressed, or unmet. And so that's where expectations are just like rife with the opportunity to be disappointed, right? But when we're talking about love, though, with great risk, like love is risky. Vulnerability, relationships are risky. Vulnerability is risky, and it's just a risk that you have to be willing to take, but you do it informed first with, are you mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially ready to enter into a dating space, because dating costs money. Even if you're not paying for the dates, you have to, wigs cost money, nails cost money, waxes cost money, Mac costs money. Like, listen, babysitters cost money. I don't know your life. So you got to ask yourself those, am I there first, right? Check in there. Then when you're in that space and you are assessing it, making sure you are assessing this relationship for what it actually is. I think back when you said, don't let your emotions go where your feet have. And when everybody you go bowling with is not they. Like, I think that we have gotten to a place where intergender relationships always have to have some romantic or sexual undertones, and men and women can just be friends. Men and women are children of God. Men and women can commune and just be that. Like, you know, we have all those things like don't bro insist them, don't friend zone them, don't do. We've overcomplicated the just human existence in a way that blinds us to who needs to be our friend, who is God sent to build our village, then who am I supposed to be considering and collecting that data on? Because everything is every person, every specimen isn't good for this sample. Every sample is not good for this research. You know what I'm saying? And so being mindful of, are y'all talking or are y'all dating? Are y'all dating or are y'all in a committed relationship? Like all of those are different and the expectations should match. So as much as I like to talk on the phone all day and texting all day, you're absolutely right. After a day or two, I'm not expecting that because I don't know you. But once you show me that it's possible, then I'm expecting it. And then at that point where I decide that this is what my expectations are, I need to speak on it, not in a why you ain't call me today type of way, but like, hey, I always start the question like, what's your preferred method of communication? Are you a texter? If I don't hear from you for a day, or like what is one of the likely causes of that? So that way I know, because that's me tempering my expectations because I know that everybody doesn't communicate with me. But if you say a certain thing that matches that, then I'm gonna expect that way. But doing like whatever your safety plan is, enacting that and sticking to it. People take cues about how to respect your boundaries from you. So when you disregard them, they will also. And being comfortable with turning away from a good thing that may not be a God thing. That's where I was. So I'll leave it.
I love that. I want to pull out a nugget that Brittany just said. If you aren't at a point in your own self-maturity that where you are ready to communicate what your expectations are, you probably aren't ready to date. You probably aren't ready to be out there just yet, and that's okay. But begin to work on those things. Am I mature enough to tell somebody or to ask someone, what is your preferred method of communication? I like that. If their mode of communication is text and you hate texting, would you be willing to bend with that? Or are you going to stand firm and say, you know what? No, I want to talk on the phone. And he don't want to talk on the phone. I'm moving on. You know, you need to be able to communicate those things. And so I want to leave you guys with a little nugget as well for how to manage expectations and disappointment. Learning how to compartmentalize people will bless your life. When you learn that there is a process, there is a due process that everyone should go through when they come into your life. There is no way you should meet someone today and they bypass all the levels and just go to we in a relationship. Can they even pass the level of friendship? Can you pass the level of my bro? Can you pass the level of you my confidant? Like, can you pass these different levels before you elevate someone to the title of this is my man or this is my boo? Expectations, you need to be honest with yourself as well. You need to know what you can and what you cannot handle. You need to know what you are hoping to accomplish when you meet people, what your goal is when you're meeting people, and also be friends with the opposite sex, not for the motivation of I want to have the story of we were friends first and then we eventually got married, but you need to make being around men common so that you aren't weird and odd around the opposite sex, and so that you aren't thinking every man that passes you by is your husband. That should not be a thought in your mind. And I had to take that before God. I did a whole man fast a few years ago. I took a whole 6 months where I didn't talk to any men. I didn't go on any dates. I didn't do anything because it became an idol in my mind where every man that talked to me, God, could this be him? Is this my husband? We kind of had a little moment. Is he into me? It will take so much pressure off of you when you can look at a man and just see him as a man, not your potential spouse. So those are my little nuggets for expectations. Ladies, this was really good. I think that we gave our sisters and our brothers in Christ just some amazing tools on how to kind of navigate this weird space of dating. I honestly think dating is ghetto, but we passed that now.
It's genuinely and unequivocally ghetto.
Yeah. So, but you know, every stage of life has its own little ghetto parts of it, but you know, we still love it and we move through it. So
yeah, the ghetto is fun. Like, I don't know why people don't act like, you know what I'm saying? It's
I was about to say that, but we always talk about how much fun we have in the ghetto, though.
Yeah, right. Right. Very good, like hole in the wall restaurants.
Yes,
like,
you can
the
turn off
best
the fire hydrant and
there.
play in the water. Like, it's fun in the ghetto.
It's
really
fun.
So
We
you
like
just
the ghetto
gotta-
sometimes. Just don't stay forever. Just don't stay forever.
We're still gonna move to the suburbs, okay? Don't stay in the ghetto forever.
Exactly.
We'll reminisce about the ghetto later on.
I really enjoyed this conversation. If you're watching the comments, please put some hand clapping emojis for Becca for curating and leading this conversation tonight. I loved it, Becca. This was so needed. I benefited from it. Thank you, Brigitte and Brittany, who her phone probably died, for coming on here. Just a couple of housekeeping things. One, if you want to get a discount for watching Sheshed on your Close Closer Conversation card starter pack, you can use code SHESHED15 for 15% off. Just go to authenticallywed.com/shop and it's there, or click the link in the comment section. For those of y'all who stuck around, if you are not on the email list, I need you to get there. This week I will be making a special announcement about the future of AW. And so I genuinely recommend that you join the email list. The way that you do that is going to authenticallywed.com. You'll see a pop-up. If you don't see a pop-up, scroll all the way to the bottom and you can put in your information to join our email list. You don't want to not know. And so you're gonna want to know where we're heading. And so I'll be announcing a part of that this week, and you want to know how you can get in on that. So if you love this conversation, there is more to come. For those of y'all who said that you didn't know that we do this, we do this just about every month. Next month we'll actually have a special conversation, and the title is not sure, but the topic is the experience of being never married and 30. So 30 plus. So 30 plus and never married.
I guess I qualify.
I forgot to reach out to you.
Me too.
I'm bringing in some special guests. It's going to be amazing. So next month, I forget the exact date, but check the calendar. Stay in touch. Check the announcements tabs for all AW news. And like I said, join the email list. All right. So that's it for us tonight. Becca, anything else?
That's it, you guys. We had our handles up here in our names. I don't know if you guys can see them. Yes, make sure that you follow us all wherever our social medias are. You can follow us. Continue to support AW. Mother is doing an amazing thing here in the group. If you have not invited your friends, invite your friends to the group. Make sure that you guys are putting in content, okay? We, the moderators, are, deciphering through, and we want to get a greater variety of content. So make sure that you guys are submitting posts so that we can approve it and get some additional dialogue going on in the group. So we are less than 40 people away from 5K. I think you guys can make it happen, okay? I believe by the end of the week, we can have 5K members. So I'm going to challenge you all. You invite just 5 people. Invite 5 friends to AW. Tell them how much it's changed your life. Are we done with testimonials, Bernie? Okay, so
we still
you
need
can also comment. You can comment on this video. You can comment on the original post that Bernie put up. How has AW changed your life? How has it been? How has your life benefited from being a part of this group? Because we want to hear that. We want to hear back from you guys. So that's all that I have. Again, we just thank you so much for hanging in here with us at the Sheshed. When we gonna go back private so we can talk for real?
Oh, and that's a part of our announcement.
Okay, good. All right. Well, everybody, we hope you have a great night. And until our next Tuesday meeting, peace.